Welcome to the Financial Freedom Guy podcast. I'm on with my good friend Daniel, and you want to talk about financial freedom. Daniel has a whole thing. He's out buying businesses, creating wealth, prosperity, helping people do well. And there's sure to be some secrets from experience that is worth learning about for all of us. So, Daniel, with that, can you introduce yourself to my audience?
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you for having me here. So, I was born in Colombia, South America. I lived in different parts of the world. In Brazil, I at some point ended up in Thailand studying meditation with Buddhist monks. That's another story. I lived in London for several years. In fact, my wife is from London, and that's why I usually have my English tea here.
Oh, yeah.
But we live in the Middle East, in Doha, near Dubai, for the past 8 years. So, yeah, it's a pretty long story, and we could stay here for ages. I don't have a traditional finance background, even though, for example, my eldest brother, he's an investment banker by trade, and he worked with UBS in London and Credit Suisse in Zurich, and even in Abu Dhabi with the Financial Council from the UAE. However, I'm not that smart with numbers as he is, and so I've kind of landed in the financial space, M&A space, buying businesses, investing, doing strategic partnerships, almost by accident because I have a background more in wellness. That's how I started my career as a wellness consultant. I wrote a book about it, and then after COVID, I transitioned online, helping businesses with their online sales and business development, and translated those skills into the world of M&A, buying businesses, and that's what we do with Echo8, which is our investment firm based out of London, but we have partners globally.
That's one heck of a journey from Colombia, South America, across the globe, and from wellness into like buying companies. That's the tip of the spear as far as sophistication. You know, how did was how did you go from A to B? What inspired you?
Well, it was more a through 100 million different routes and attempts and paths that led me to where I am now. I think that if you don't try, you'll never know, right? So in my case, it's been attempting many different pathways and vehicles for me to get to my goals. And that took me to different parts of the world, different industries, different skill sets. And the I think the main reason why I ended up where I am now and doing this is through networking and through connecting with people who inspire me and who already have what I want in a sense. And so when I focused on sales and business development, I quickly understood that you could translate those skill sets and have more leverage and not just buy products or services, but by assets and by um, businesses that are living entities with a customer base and employees, and you can systemize them. You can make them more profitable. Obviously, now with AI and technology, you can make that even more valuable. And so I got very curious about that, and I started connecting with people who were in that space. Anything from entrepreneurs buying small and medium businesses to private equity firms or family offices in the Middle East. And so just immersed myself in that world over the past few years. And I consider myself a very good learner and a master connector. So wherever I go, I'm always very curious to connect with people, understand what they're working on, what's important to them, what are the challenges, what do they need help with, and usually I can't really help directly, but I probably know someone who can. So I love building those bridges. And with that mindset, I've built a fairly good network. And that's what led me to, for instance, partnering with Echo 8. And now we're doing M&A deals globally, mostly in the ESG space. So renewable energies and sustainability, and at this moment partnering more at a public sector level with governments and sovereign wealth funds. So there are some very interesting deals at that level. And so to answer your question, it's networking, connecting with the right people, and being of value to them. Because at the end of the day, the more value we put out there, the more rewards we will receive.
It really cannot be understated. I spent the first half of my career with heads down, technical aspects, and then started to realize, if I spend more time talking to people, figuring out how to connect things, it makes a huge difference. So you went, that's interesting. You got it. You're doing sales, products and services, and then like, hey, I can sell whatever product or service. Buy and sell products and services. I can buy and sell companies.
Correct.
The bigger impact. And so, what do you look for when you're out in the world networking? You got relationships. You're hearing
Mhm.
about stuff. When you're hearing about different opportunities, what is the difference between that's interesting or not so interesting for you?
Yeah, so I think everything goes through evolutions. And so right now, the main focus with our investment firm is, like I said,
Yes.
ESG and sustainability. So we have a pretty prolific pipeline of deals across renewable energies, solar energies, heating and cooling technologies, sustainable construction materials, wind turbines, water treatment plants, all sorts of things internationally in different jurisdictions. So that's very interesting. And wherever I go to any business event, actually yesterday there was a big event here in Doha. It's called the Web Summit Qatar. It's mostly for venture capital and for startups and tech. And so I went there and I connected to different people in Saudi, for instance, and there's a big push to make the construction industry in Saudi Arabia 100% carbon neutral by 2030, which is a very big and bold claim, but they're on their path to doing that. And so we started talking about potentially bringing some of those solutions into some of those uh, tables, and who knows who we could connect with and the decision makers that we could partner with to potentially make those deals happen. And so there are certain things that I have no clue about. Most of the things out there I don't really understand, so I try to stay away from them. Things like tech, for instance, I don't really understand what makes an app blow up versus all the other hundreds or thousands of apps that you never hear about. So those things I try to kind of stay away from. But sectors that I'm generally curious about, that I love learning about, in this case, ESG. I think that's one of the main focuses. And other than that, online businesses, anything like e-commerce, agencies, SaaS companies, is something that I'm interested in, and I have a little bit of experience in. So I try to stay on my lane. And like I said, if I can't really add value to someone, I will always be transparent. And at the same time, I probably know someone who can. So I've built a good referral network in that sense. Uh, Even with you, right? You're an
Yeah.
expert in what you do as a CFO, and helping companies solve that problem of becoming more profitable, more organized, tracking their finances better, etc. And so I know people who have that problem, and I can't really help them in that sense directly, but
Yeah.
I can pass them on to you, and that's how everybody wins.
Yeah. The right person at the table, expertise. Okay, so I want to dig a little bit deeper into that construction company example. So they want to be carbon neutral, pretty close,
Yes.
5 years out, pretty close to. I'm not sure how big they are. So what generic, it could be generically, but a little bit. I want to understand more about what you get involved in.
Mhm.
So what would you actually do for them or with them to get the outcomes they want?
Yeah, so we have partnered with several companies that are developing renewable energy solutions. To give an example, we acquired 50% stake in a wind turbine company out of Sweden, and they've developed a very interesting design for a new wind turbine. Because, as you know, the wind turbines are very big and expensive, and it's actually very inefficient. So what this company does is they solve that problem. So they developed a smaller wind turbine, which is cylindrical, and it can be used not just in open fields, but it can be used on top of buildings and commercial property and residential property, so it can be integrated into cities. And pretty much anyone can have one of those or several of those at home producing energy. So
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah.
yeah, and so that's one opportunity we have on the table. And so we want to find partners at a government level that might be interested in that. So that's just one vehicle. Now, the way we think is how can we grow the asset value of the business? How can we make it even better? So we have another technology, which is a heating and cooling technology. It's a nanotechnology out of Turkey. So we can actually integrate both and make the wind turbine more efficient because the heating and cooling technology optimizes the energy transfer process. So
Yeah.
now we merge both and we can lower costs, we can make it more profitable. On top of that, we have another company, which is a solar company. They designed new panels because, as you know, most of the solar panels are flat.
Mhm.
However, they designed panels that are more efficient and they absorb 2 to 3 times more photons and they generate more energy and they're also more affordable. They're smaller panels, they're like a cone, like a pyramid, and they can integrate it into lamp posts. So all the cities that you see in the background, all the lights,
Yeah.
in the next few years, we wouldn't be surprised if many of those urban lampposts are actually powered by solar.
It's actually the lamp post versus solar farms. You have the lamp post is absorbing the energy it needs to run the lights. I mean, yeah.
Exactly, correct. And so we're thinking, okay, so we have these different solutions. What
Yeah.
if we can merge all those? We can use the nanotechnology from heating and cooling to make the other two more efficient. We could even integrate the solar panels into the wind turbines to create a holistic solution that, for instance, in the Middle East where I live, there's a lot of sun and there's a lot of wind, right?
Yeah.
And the reason why solar energy is not that well used here is because there's also a problem, which is there's a lot of dust in the air because of the constructions and also the sandstorms, of course, the desert. So solar energy isn't that efficient here. But if we solve that problem, we design better panels, we integrate it with another technology, then we can add a lot of value to those companies and then bring those technologies, for instance, to Saudi Arabia, if they want to improve the construction industry and make it more sustainable, we can present that solution for them to integrate it into their projects, their residential, commercial projects, and so that's one. And then the other one is if they're looking for instance, sustainable cement. We're working with another company that is developing it's a form of compost that can be transformed into cement,
That is
which
wow.
is which is way cleaner
That's
than
wild.
yeah, because the construction industry, maybe you know this, is one of the most polluting industries. And cement specifically can be very polluting and very toxic to the environment. And so we have brilliant people, and our job is to simply help connect the dots and and bring that business strategy, that thinking of how can we make this even bigger? Because most of the companies, even if they already have some level of success, at the end of the day, they think very linearly. They just want to get more customers. They just want to expand to new markets, but they don't have that M&A thinking or that strategic thinking where I could actually triple or 10x my revenue or 100x if I merge with a similar company that has a crossover and can make my product 10 times or more valuable. So those are just some examples of how we come in, and sometimes we just consult for companies. Sometimes we become equity partners. Usually we do because we like having well, not just skin in the game, but being actively involved. We're not passive investors. We're not just trying to raise some capital and giving it to people and hoping that they do something good with it. We like being very involved. We like adding value to the businesses. So yeah, we have literally dozens of deals in the ESG sector, and we have a very active team all over the world. I'm thinking of one person specifically. He's in Singapore. His name is Felix. Every single day, he has literally dozens of different deals on the table. And so most of those, they never amount to anything. Maybe they're too small, or that we can't really add value to them, or maybe we don't like them, or maybe they don't like us, right? But there are a few that come in and we end up partnering with them, and it's a very exciting journey.
Yeah, and you're definitely. I like you describe that you're sitting in a certain place, like from an industry standpoint, different industries, and you can see, oh, this fits over here, do this. So it's almost like you got a bigger puzzle set, and you can say, oh, this piece fits here, fits here, fits here. Very strategic, and you know, like if somebody's operating a business, they're the founder, maybe the hired CEO, whatever it is, they're not going to have they're not sitting in the same spot that you are. They're not going to be able to see those different opportunities and options. So even just a discussion with somebody with you could open up possibilities that maybe the CEO and their team isn't even thinking about. Like, well, what if? Huh? Okay, so that's beautiful. And
Yes,
so you come in, you get cash infusion, you can see different parts of the puzzle, how things might play out in different marketplaces. So now
yes.
the company is if they're not playing strategically before that, if they talk with you, they at least have an option to become strategic and whatever outcome they want in their life. Maybe it's more possible now. Is that a fair way of?
Correct. Yeah, at the end of the day, it's just a matter of thinking bigger and thinking more strategically. And if we look at the most successful companies in the world, the reason why they have gotten there is because at some point their founders stopped thinking linearly and they started thinking more strategically and from an investment group perspective, right? So the main shareholders and the wealthiest people in the world actually own very little of the companies, but that's because the companies are now part of something way bigger. Just like Amazon acquired Audible, and Google acquired YouTube, and Facebook acquired Instagram and WhatsApp, and so on and so forth. So that's how you can grow the asset value. Obviously, you don't need to um, work on multi-billion-dollar deals to understand that thinking and to add value to companies. There are many companies that just don't have that exposure, or they don't have the knowledge of it. They just don't know how to connect with other companies that might, like I said, help them scale way faster and uh,
Yeah. Daniel, there's a lot to
essentially
be said
scale.
about. Oh, sorry. I was just going to say there's a lot to be said about having the right person at the table. Maybe somebody in ops could pretend to be a strategic growth person, or maybe even a CFO could pretend to be a strategic growth person. But if that's if they're not, then they're going to underserve the company. Most CFOs are not strategic. There's some
Mhm.
investment banker types. Most are kind of internal, that linear growth, how revenue, value of the business, and household income is worth if it's a privately held businesses. How do you drive compensation?
Yes.
Um, but most it'd be a unique. Some CFOs are investment bankers, but they're not. It's somebody like you that's very unique at what they do, and you got a team with different experiences, so you're able to connect the dots differently than what somebody else would. Um, but there's a lot to be said about having the right person at the table, and by having the wrong person, you're literally giving up from a financial standpoint. It could be huge. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And that's why I always try to stay in my lane. I'm a good relationship builder. I'm a good networker. I know very little about uh, deep financial analysis. So we have other associates who help with all that. And so everyone plays to their strengths. and everyone comes to the table, and we offer our own skill sets, and that's how we uh, help each other and how we add value to each other and to the people that we partner with. And like I said, there are three main things that we always look for. Number one, can we actually add value to the business? Number two, is this a long-term partnership where we can see our values aligning? And number three, just the human element. Do we actually like these people, and do they like us? Because that's not always the case.
Yeah, and it's no fun having either side of the equation, having an investor that's not, you know, good with the management team and vice versa. Okay, so from a deal size, kind of what do you look at? You know, where does it start to become worthwhile to you to at least look at an opportunity?
Yeah, so right now, in terms of ticket size, looking at anything from, let's say, 10 to 50 million, that those are most of the deals. However, more recently, we're looking at companies that are raising from 50 to even 500 million, and those can be trillion-dollar opportunities if we find the right funding partners and the right strategy. So it's a wide range, but as we grow our network, as we build stronger relationships, we are working on way bigger deals, and sometimes people come to us with just SMEs and things under like 5 billion, for instance. We can't really help most of those businesses at the moment, although we have, again, a network of other people who specialize in acquiring smaller businesses, and that's fine, and we're always happy to refer them to the right people. And so that's in terms of the ticket price, and in terms of the model, we we do want to focus more on the public sector. So bringing companies and bringing innovative solutions that have a real impact on the on climate change, for instance, on making the quality of lives of people's lives better, so that we can execute that for instance, we've partnered with the Indian government to execute some water treatment solutions in 4 provinces. So those are the kind of deals that we're working on right now. The ticket size varies immensely, but the focus is more on a public sector level.
Yeah, you want to see impact. You want to financial outcomes are good, and it does. No one should write themselves off. I mean, the big deals, the ones that people hear about in the media, those are exciting. But there's also like micro acquisitions. There's plenty of baby boomers who own businesses that are not transferable. They're doing maybe over 1 million, less than 5 million, and the business is dependent on the owners, and maybe there's customer concentration. So those businesses really aren't sellable to a third party without long earnouts, and the economics aren't there. But if there's a business of a decent size, not big, but just something, some kind of something working on, you can acquire 2 or 3 micro acquisitions. All of a sudden you double, right? And then now the game is different, the skills are different.
Mm-hmm.
So if anyone's listening, just know that there's acquisition. I mean, Daniel, he's with the big dogs. I mean, his journey's taken him to a whole different place of huge impact. That there still could be something that different people do. Is there a story? We talked about the Saudi Arabian construction company. Is there another story that pops out to you as like, man, this is why? Because sometimes it's hard to get up and get going. At least it is for me.
Yes.
Um, and I'm married, you're married, kids, that kind of stuff. Sometimes there's a lot going on. But so like a story where just kind of you're in the moment, you're like, wow, this is why you do what you do. Does anything like that come to mind?
Well, coming from developing country, so to speak, in Colombia, I never imagined ending up doing what I do now, and having traveled all over the world, and uh, discussing these topics, and really game-changing technologies and opportunities that involved not just a lot of money, but an incredible impact. And so I always come back to probably the most defining story and moment in my life, which was in my early 20s. I was in my hometown in Bogota, in Colombia, and I was visiting my mom one evening. And I remember I went out cycling around the neighborhood, and somehow I ended up in the wrong place at the wrong time. And I saw a guy who was going to come up to me, and I could sense and I had that intuition that something's not right, something's going to happen here. And effectively, that guy came up to me and he was going to mug me. And it was too late to turn around, and he ended up stabbing me
Ooh,
in the
wow.
back,
Yeah.
literally, with a screwdriver. So it was right under the shoulder blade.
Hmm.
And somehow I managed to get back up and get back on the bike and kick him and escape. And as I was escaping, I kept telling myself, I hope it's not too deep, because it had been a strong hit
Hmm.
right under my shoulder blade. And so I got to a shop in the middle of nowhere, and there was a big mirror, and I went in to look at myself. So I took off my jacket. I had several layers, and there was blood everywhere. It was very messy. And in that shop in the middle of nowhere, there were two angels. There were two interns from a local hospital
Oh,
who saved me. And they
yeah.
came up to me and they saw, hey, you got stabbed. Hey, like, no worries, you're gonna be okay. They were trying to reassure me, but in fact, it was very delicate because my lung had been pierced. And
Wow.
when that happens, you have 20 or 30 minutes before a respiratory attack,
Yeah.
because the lung starts filling up with blood, and then you have like external air coming in and compressing the lung. So every breath makes it harder, and it's like every breath is killing you. It's a horrible feeling. It's the most
Yeah.
awful feeling I've ever had, because obviously you want to breathe, to remain calm, but it's like each breath is killing you.
Man.
And so
Jeez.
I started fainting, and when that happened, they took me on a taxi to the hospital, and thanks to them, I went straight to emergency surgery. I was on the operations table. There was no time for anesthesia or anything. They just cut me open. They
Oh
stuck
my
a tube
God.
between my ribs and to
Oh,
drain all the blood. And while I
yeah.
was there, I had this mystical experience where I just saw everything from a higher perspective, and everything was covered in light. And I could see the doctors and the nurses, and they were like angels. And that's when I realized this is a miracle. Life, being here, breathing, this is a blessing. We take it for granted, but since then, I've cultivated that positive energy, that feeling of gratitude. And even when I'm stressed or sleep deprived or jet lagged or whatever, everybody has something, right?
Yeah.
The moment I wake up in the morning, if I'm breathing, I
Yeah.
smile and I'm just say, Hallelujah. It's a new day. Let's do something good.
Yeah. That's so at a very early age, that's a traumatic, serious experience where now it means something to you. You're here. You're here for a reason, and you go out in the world to find out what it is. To be one of those angels, quite frankly.
Yeah, and you can translate it in different environments, in different industries. And so I I bring that energy in those conversations sometimes to high level business events. I was at a family office summit in Abu Dhabi a few months ago, and I remember we ended up talking about all those things and spirituality and near death experiences with some very successful and high net worth people and founders of super successful companies. And those things make you more human, and those things help you pierce through all the the status and the business card and the whatever, however people present themselves.
Yeah. Just
at the end
human.
of the day, we're just
Yeah.
on the same planet. We're trying to figure it out. And that's one of the things that I think has contributed to my network and the fact that I'm just a kid from Colombia. I'm still trying to learn English, right? I'm just trying to learn and try to help as best I can. And I love people who are also uh, authentic and they genuinely want to learn. If they don't know something, I'm happy to say, hey, I'm the first one to tell you I can't help you. This is not my expertise.
Yeah.
Maybe I know someone who can. And even when we partner with companies, we tell them straight up, we're not perfect. We'll probably make many, many mistakes along the way, but we'll get it right.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a beautiful thing. I mean, where you can go from here to there with real people. It's almost a brotherhood, and it could be a sisterhood as well. But I use a brotherhood, military background kind of thing. But that really matters. So people, if there's something that's in your kind of for the audience, if you know of something, if you're doing something that's in Daniel's wheelhouse, definitely reach out to him, collaborate.